If you think you've heard it all, get ready to be surprised. A mother and daughter locked in a bathroom, a dog appearing in two places at once, a woman escaping terror on the highway. Sounds like a movie script? It's not. And if I told you this all happened for real, would you believe it? Today we're revealing stories that challenge logic and your sense of safety. And the best part? I'll show you how to stay one step ahead of the unknown. Stick around until the end, and together we'll say a prayer to protect us from these unexplainable energies. It was a quiet night in South Lake Tahoe when a teenage girl and her mother decided to stay at a hotel since their family cabin was unavailable. Everything seemed normal until a strange noise at the door broke the peace. A shadowy figure was desperately trying to break into their room. Imagine the panic. The two locked themselves in the bathroom and called the front desk, which immediately sent security. While they waited, they could hear the intruder's heavy footsteps and labored breathing just outside the door. The man didn't manage to get in, but the trauma of that night left deep scars on the young girl. The simple act of staying in an apparently safe hotel turned into a scene of terror. Realizing that a place meant to provide safety and rest could become a nightmare, they both decided to tighten their personal security measures. They started checking all locks more carefully and using portable alarms for extra protection. This experience also made them reflect on the importance of always being prepared to act quickly in emergencies. This incident in Tahoe is a clear example of how the unexpected can turn a simple trip into a nightmare. What should have been a moment of relaxation and fun became a lesson in prudence and preparation. They learned that even in places considered safe, it's crucial to stay vigilant and always be ready for the unexpected. And speaking of sleepless nights, our next story takes us to a house where the residents discovered they weren't alone. When a young pregnant woman moved into her new home, she was looking for a calm place to start her family. From the very first night, strange events began to occur. Objects moved on their own, doors creaked without reason, and a constant feeling of being watched disturbed her. It wasn't long before she started having vivid and terrifying nightmares, followed by episodes of sleep paralysis, during which she felt a malignant presence in the room. These experiences led her to investigate the house's history. She discovered that a tragedy had occurred there many years before, involving a family that never found peace. The young woman realized that her own family was being haunted by a sinister entity. To protect her home, she sought spiritual help and performed purification rituals, hoping to drive away the evil that pursued them. She began burning sage and using protective crystals, trying to bring peace back to her home. Despite all efforts, the feeling of a malignant presence never completely disappeared. This story makes us think about the energies that can persist in certain places and the importance of paying attention to signs that something is wrong. Often our homes can hide secrets from the past that still influence the present. And speaking of scary encounters, our next story takes us to the road, where a couple had a terrifying encounter with a stranger. Returning from a trip to Yosemite, a couple saw something strange by the roadside, a woman lying on the ground. Concerned, they stopped immediately to offer help. The woman, trembling with fear, revealed she was fleeing an abusive situation. This encounter not only highlighted the severity of her situation, but also put the couple at risk, not knowing if the abuser was nearby. The woman was covered in scratches and bruises, and her panicked eyes told a story of horror. While they waited for the police, the tension grew. Every passing car made their hearts race, fearing the abuser could show up at any moment. Despite her fear, the woman thanked them for their help and shared how her life had turned into a living nightmare. This horrifying moment on the highway not only marked the couple, but also made them realize the importance of reaching out to those in need, even in dangerous situations. They would never forget the expression of relief and gratitude on the woman's face when the police finally arrived. These unexpected encounters on the road remind us that often terror can be closer than we imagine. The situations we encounter can teach us a lot about courage and compassion. And speaking of unexpected and frightening situations, our next story involves a mother, her daughter, and a terrifying presence outside the window. It was a typical evening when a mother was bathing her young daughter. Suddenly, a strange noise came from the window. As she approached, she saw an old man with a sinister appearance standing outside, watching them. Her heart raced, and she quickly locked all the doors and windows. The man's presence remained, unmoving and terrifying, with a fixed stare that sent chills down her spine. She called the police, but those minutes before the officers arrived felt like an eternity. The man didn't attempt to enter, but his fixed and disturbing gaze made it clear that his intentions were not good. When the police finally arrived, the man vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a sense of vulnerability and fear that the family could never shake off. The mother started maintaining constant vigilance and installed security cameras around the house. These situations of danger in our own homes make us think about safety and the importance of always being alert. A home, which should be a place of refuge and comfort, can turn into a scene of terror. And speaking of inexplicable phenomena, our next story involves an encounter with something that defies logic, a dog that appears to be in two places at once. Imagine a family's confusion upon seeing their beloved German Shepherd in two places at once. One night, while the dog was in the yard, an identical figure appeared inside the house. At first, they thought it was a hallucination, but the figure was as real as the dog itself. This bizarre phenomenon left the family in panic, questioning their sanity. The figure moved strangely, mimicking the real dog's movements. Investigating further, they discovered that similar reports had occurred in the neighborhood, always involving pets. The mysterious figure seemed to take on the form of beloved animals to get close to families. This supernatural encounter led the family to take measures to protect their home spiritually, using rituals and protective charms. They started keeping a vigilant eye on their pets and reinforced security measures around the house. This story makes us question what else might be out there beyond our understanding. The presence of something so inexplicable can leave us feeling vulnerable and make us think about the unknown. And speaking of scary situations, our next narrative takes place in an equally mysterious setting. A woman living on a boat, facing creepy encounters. Living on a boat might seem like a dream, but for one woman, it turned into a nightmare. In an abandoned industrial area, she began to notice the presence of a strange man watching her from a distance. At first, she thought it was a coincidence, but the encounters became frequent and increasingly disturbing. The man seemed to appear out of nowhere and always looked at her with an unsettling expression. One night, when she returned to the boat, she found signs that someone had been there. Objects out of place and footprints led her to believe that the man had invaded her space. The feeling of insecurity and terror made her reconsider her lifestyle and look for a safer place. The police were involved, but the man was never found, leaving a sinister mystery in the air. She started sleeping with a knife by her bed and installed additional locks. These bizarre encounters in such an isolated setting show us that danger can be where we least expect it. What seemed like a tranquil adventure turned into a constant fear experience. And speaking of mysteries, our next story takes us to a mansion full of secrets. A young girl went to a party at an imposing mansion and during the night met a mysterious girl who seemed out of place. They talked for a while, but soon the girl disappeared. Curious, the young girl started asking about her and found out that no one else had seen her. Intrigued, she decided to investigate and found old records of a girl who had died in the mansion years ago. The party continued, but she couldn't get the story out of her mind. The presence of the ghostly girl became more evident as the night went on, with sudden appearances and inexplicable events. The guests started to realize that something strange was happening. This supernatural encounter led the young girl to question the mansion's history and the possible hauntings that resided there. She began to explore the mansion, discovering locked rooms and old objects that seemed to have been left untouched for decades. This experience in the mansion makes us think about the hidden secrets in old places and the possibility of spirits still being present. The stories and legends surrounding these places often have a kernel of truth that can surprise us. And speaking of moments of horror, the next story brings us a shocking and urgent event. It was a quiet night until a teenager heard a crash followed by desperate screams outside their home. Rushing out to investigate, they found the devastating scene of a car accident with severely injured victims, including children. The urgency of the situation required immediate action, and they ran to call for emergency services, trying to help the injured while waiting. They used their phone to light up the scene and comfort the victims, who were in shock. The horror of the accident left a deep mark on the teenager, who could never forget the screams and the blood. The arrival of paramedics brought momentary relief, but the trauma of the night lingered, This brutal event reminds us of life's fragility and the importance of being prepared to act in emergencies. They decided to take a first aid course and encourage their friends to do the same, so everyone would be ready to help in similar situations. These real-life horror experiences make us value every moment and always stay alert. Life can change in an instant, and being prepared can make all the difference. And speaking of unexplainable events, our next story involves a family facing something out of the ordinary: time anomalies. A family moved into a new house and soon realized that something strange was happening. Days seemed to disappear, events repeated, and a constant feeling of déjà vu surrounded them. They started to notice they were trapped in a time loop, where hours and even entire days were lost without explanation. They tried to document these events, but the recordings and notes turned out confusing and incomplete. They consulted specialists and even tried to document the occurrences, but nothing made sense. The feeling of being stuck in an endless cycle created an atmosphere of fear and confusion. Each family member faced personal challenges while trying to deal with the distorted reality they were living in. They sought help from a paranormal investigator, who provided some clues but no definitive solution. These time anomalies make us question the nature of time and our understanding of the world around us. The idea of being trapped in a repetitive and inescapable cycle is terrifying and makes us reflect on the unknown. And so we conclude our journey through these terrifying stories, but not without reflecting on what we can learn from these experiences. And so, we end our journey through these chilling stories, my friends. Each story we shared today reminds us of how life can be full of mysteries and surprises, often beyond our understanding. In each situation, we saw the importance of always being alert and prepared for the unexpected, whether by reinforcing security at home, helping those in need on the road, or facing the unknown with courage and prudence. But now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something inexplicable or scary? How did you deal with it? Leave your comments below, because sharing experiences helps us grow and learn together. And if these stories made you think, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any fascinating stories. Here at Storytellers Haven, we're always ready to explore the unknown and learn more about the world around us. So folks, let's stay united, alert, and curious. Until next time, where we'll bring more stories to spark the imagination and challenge reality. Don't miss it.